Hello, Brave Masters. Welcome to the next episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I am so excited to have you here. It truly makes a difference that you show up, you listen, you comment, and you give us feedback. So if you love what you hear or you're inspired by something you hear, please give us a review on iTunes. That would make my day. And also give us some feedback as to what you take away from this. That way, Amy and I both know what is making the impact, and we'll keep doing more of it, right? So without further ado, I can't wait to dive deeper into this conversation with Amy Coates. Welcome aboard. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to finally meet you and see you and right and have you on this show. We've been making this happen for a little while, and I also believe it's always in the right time. So the message needs to be heard, whatever message shows up, and so it's just the right time in the right place. And so if you would, I would love if you could introduce yourself so everybody gets a feel for what you bring to the world and what you're all up to.
Sure. So like you mentioned, my name is Amy Coates, and I am the founder of 2 Week Notice Society. So I help women create a business and a life that they love so that they can leave their 9-to-5 with confidence, that security, and just feel really good about moving forward with doing something that they're passionate about.
I love that. And I love the 2 Week Notice name. I think that's adorable and makes perfect sense. And so I too have had a 9-to-5 corporate job back in the day. And so when was the last time you had a 9-to-5? I'm curious.
Sure. It was 3 years ago. I left almost 3 years to the day. I gave my notice around New Year's Eve. And so
wow. During
that time, I'm always super grateful.
Yeah, for sure. And making a lot of changes. So yeah, what a day to resign, right? So tell us a little more about that. What's your background and what had you get brave enough to make that leap of faith?
Sure. I was a financial controller for almost 20 years. I was in my last corporate job for 12 years with a technology company. It was all men except for me and another woman. And so there was a lot of, I'm not a huge female, until recently, but empowerment person, at least at that time, because I'd worked around men so much, but I definitely saw the difference in the way that I was treated, and the other woman that I work with, she was treated compared to these other men. And I also did payroll. So I saw that difference too. But,
totally got that.
But
wow.
I had been doing what I had been doing for so long, and I kind of had gotten to that ceiling of where I could go, especially with that company. And I knew I didn't want to go to another corporate job, but I didn't really know what my other options were. And kind of with that, I was going to be turning 40 in a year. And I was thinking, is this really what the next 20, 30 years of my life is going to be like? Right. Working for someone else. He's driving a much better car, going to nicer vacations, and I'm still kind of getting my 3% raises every year.
Right.
Being asked to do more. And so my first business, I got this idea. I was like, I can start offering these services that, all of this knowledge that I have from my corporate experience, I started to offer that to virtual and local clients. And so I started that business. It took off very quickly. And that's how I was able to leave my 9-to-5. And then, people started asking, how did you do it? I want to do it. I'm miserable in my 9-to-5. And then I kind of discovered this huge coaching industry, which is really where my passion is and lies. But I did not know that when I was in my 9-to-5.
Got it. I love that. You followed the breadcrumbs, right? You did the first step called get out of the job. Right. And then it's like we start teaching what we know, and then people want to emulate what we're doing. And the good news is I know exactly what you do. I didn't remember that about you, but I was a controller for about 8 years when I left and was like, is this all there is? Nothing against it, guys. I'm a numbers girl, and it pays off well for my clients now because we know the numbers. We know how to build business, right? From that perspective. But yeah, and I did payroll. Totally get you right there. it's, you know, and I think the interesting part, no matter what I call it the spark of curiosity or the spark of inspiration, that moment where you're like, is this it? Is this all I get? You know, and we can look outside of ourselves and start justifying our feelings and our, you know, like making that, and I'm not saying you did this, but it's like, we can look at that and go, okay, this isn't fair. This isn't right. This isn't, you know, make things wrong or justify, right? However, I think what ultimately was, you know, I think the brave thing is that you listen to that spark of curiosity going, is that all there is? And that's really the question. It's not whether or not, you know, the 9 to 5 is, you know, treating you well, but it's like, you are meant for more.
Right.
And I think if people just start to listen to that calling, you know, the world can open up. And I love what you did. You did, I sort of did what you did. I actually jumped out and bought a storefront, which was like totally, you know, night and day. However, I had a fashion background and an accounting background. And then 1 year later, it went bankrupt. So I was still now left with like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So what you did and what I did, we started consulting what we already knew for years and years. I got the bills paid, you know, with the contract work from being an outsourced controller. And, but it gave me the courage to stay in the game of entrepreneurship, right? Because it's like, I can pay the bills and take care of things. And so once you started seeing the transition happen, first of all, considering your company's name 2 week notice, how hard was it to give the 2 week notice?
Well, I was building my side hustle along while I was still in my 9 to 5 in secret, actually, because I figured. I didn't want them to know. And I knew how much income I wanted to create before I gave that notice. And then, so once I gave that note, honestly, it felt like a big relief once I did it. It was very scary, you know, waiting to do it. It was nerve-wracking because I had worked with these people for so long and they were personal friends of mine. But once I did it, I just was like on to that next level, right? I was then free to focus on what it is I wanted to do.
Yeah. The excitement kicks in, right? The excitement, I always say when there's nerves and excitement wrapped around, you know, one just requires breathing. Yeah. Right? Just breathe into the excitement, as they say. And so let's go back to, because this is what I think people need to get. And I've just gone through some really big decisions lately, and I still feel the feelings. I still feel the nerves. I still feel the like, oh my gosh, what are they going to think? Or are they going to react? Or right? So can you talk a little bit more about that experience? What do you do to continue to move through those feelings? Because it's like, obviously we care about, especially if they're personal relationships, we care about what people are going to think or say or whatever. I just know that to be kind of a common thread. So can you speak to that?
Sure. You know, I would say for the first year in my business, I kind of hid online because I was afraid of what my coworkers were going to say. I kind of knew how they were. You know, they're not the ones that are stepping outside. They're staying safe in their 9 to 5s, which is fine. Maybe that's what they want to do. But I knew and know that they were judging me and doing, you know, something different than what the path that they chose. And so I literally would be very afraid to show up on Facebook Live or to share what I was doing because I was afraid that these people that make no difference in my life anymore were what they were saying. And it honestly took kind of a little bit of a struggle, like not getting the results that I wanted, and just getting a little frustrated as to where I was at and where I wanted to be to kind of to start to overcome that and just be like, the people that I need to be helping are more important than these people that I don't even talk to anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
you've outgrown them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it took time, and it took me getting some results in my business and getting people saying, you know, I watch your lives, you know, I resonate with what you're saying. And it kind of got that confidence from the people who were my ideal clients in my community to let go of those people from my past. So, yeah.
And I appreciate that, because I think we all kind of, it's like from the moment we get that spark of curiosity or that calling or that moment, it's like, I think I need to consider this. I always look at how fast can we get brave, right? For the sake of following through. And one of my new hashtags is gut and faith, right? You hear the gut instinct, you hear it. How fast do you follow and listen and step into it and have faith around it? But, and everybody's going to be different. Every situation's different, but I think the awareness to that is what's important. Like, how can I elevate that awareness? And for you, sometimes, it's like you had to go through that phase of figuring that out so that you could finally pull the trigger. Would you do it differently?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In what way? I was hoping your answer would be that.
I think it's taken me a while to gain the confidence, and I still feel like I don't, sometimes I'm not confident, but it's taken me a while to get here. I set pretty high standards and goals for myself. Sure. And expectations. So when I don't achieve them, I'm sometimes let down, but, I think I just would have gone after it with more, with more braveness, just really gone after it instead of like tiptoeing my way into it. But,
yeah, got it. And it's perfect, right? It's perfect the way it's happened, or you wouldn't even know that lesson. We wouldn't have learned that part. Because I know our listeners and watchers, our video watchers, like they've been there and we're like you, it's like, I want them to see that this is not isolated, and we're not anything different. We have to move through the hard decisions. We have to move through the commitment to those decisions, and then ultimately take brave action inside of it. So I love hearing, your story around that. And so now that you've been in business, what has been the bravest thing you've had to face or to overcome?
I think still putting myself out there, to not being afraid to share what it is that I offer and can do to help people. Sometimes I'm a little shy about it or meek about it, or just expect people to line up to want to work with me, but it takes it takes effort, on my part as well. But I'm definitely, have come a long way with that. Yeah. And, I think the more people I help, the more I can see, how many more people I can impact, and the trickle effect of that as well.
Yeah. It's like once we get our brave on, there is a ripple effect, right? And then, and not only in ourselves internally, but also externally, for all of the people that they're going to help. We help one, they help others, right? And I that was true for me too. It's like the more I put myself out there, the more vulnerable I get, the more visible I get. And then people are like, thank you, then I'm like, okay, that's why I'm doing it, so yeah, I think we just have to keep showing up. And so congratulations on that. It's huge. So take us back, so you were in corporate America a long time. What is some of your, what had you come to being a controller, for that matter? Are you always been a numbers person?
Honestly, I just kind of went through the path of going to college. Like, that's kind of what, I don't know, I thought I was supposed to do. And then I got this corporate job, and then, I thought I was supposed to do that. And then it just was like something that I did. Although I feel like being the numbers person, and you probably know this now as well, but it really helps in my business, because I'm very adamant about helping my people be able to see, or how to create a sustainable business. I'm not someone who's like, let's create $5,000 next month, and then you're going to struggle for the next 6 months.
And then you're done. Yeah.
Or even, helping them figure out how much they need to save, or what they need to do in order to leave their 9 to 5. I feel like I have a different perspective on that. Right. Just from being a numbers person and understanding that. So I think it's definitely helped, but I have to say, it was a great job. It got me a great income,
Sure.
All those things, but it becomes a little mundane. I definitely like this much more, something different every day. It becomes a little bit the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. When I was in one job, controller for one company, and that became very repetitive. Every month you close the month and you do the same thing. Then I moved over to a public accounting firm and was a consultant in the entrepreneurial advisory group, which was amazing because now I've got a little more variety. So that made me last a little longer.
Right.
But then I still burn out. I'm like, okay, I need something else, more creativity, more of that. Right.
Right.
But, I think the message that you share about, obviously being brave enough to leave your 9 to 5 and help people really step into that. If they have something more they know they are meant to do, I think is really important. Like you said, corporate America is obviously on purpose, meaning we need it. We need people in those roles. But if you have any inclination to do something more, I think it's a matter of like, why are you waiting, right? You probably did the whole college thing, followed the rules, got the degrees, right? But it's like, why are we waiting? There's an urgency and I always say urgency is not about hurry, like rush, but it's an urgency because it's on purpose. Like, I need to be doing this for the sake of what I'm meant to do in the world, right? Like that urgency. So I just really love your message and your, helping people solve that. And so one of the things I love to talk about though is fear, right? Brave is not the absence of fear at all. So what do you do personally to move through fear, or what I call listen through fear, and keep moving?
It's tough. I do a lot of mindset work, a lot of personal development. And honestly, at least when I was in my 9 to 5, that wasn't even talked about, or like there was nothing about it. I didn't really know anything about it. I think maybe I knew of Tony Robbins, but that was about it. And so I really started to put, a mindset practice into place, a morning routine, but I still have fear, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of, I guess, acknowledging it and then continuing to move forward, or almost forcing myself to move forward sometimes.
Right.
Just knowing that what I want is on the other side of that fear, and that it's not necessarily going to go away. You just learn how to deal with it differently, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important. Anybody obviously in business, I think, may already figured this out. Like, this is a mindset process. This is not just business. Like 90% of it is all about mindset and mind shifting. And I always say, like, if you want to get the best personal development course in the world, you be a business owner, right? You will have to face yourself, period. I believe that's what brave is. Brave mastery is about being willing to face yourself in all aspects. And so, for those listening, it's like, fear is not absent ever. Because fear is the ego. Fear is like, it is the job of our ego to try to keep us safe. So therefore it throws up fears all day long. So it can try to keep you away from it, but it's like not real. It's an illusion. It's, it's made up by us. And so I'm curious, because I have my own morning routine. What is your morning routine to keep yourself centered and focused?
So I do a meditation. I listen to a meditation. I write down every morning, I write down my goals in a journal.
Yes.
So like as if they've already happened. And then I do a little bit of journaling, but I read some affirmations. I actually pull some cards, which it's always weird because whatever I pull, it has to do with whatever's going on in my life.
Absolutely. It's not weird. So weird. It's so perfect. I'm with you.
I know. It's crazy. And then usually I'll do, if I have time, reading in some sort of personal development book. But
got it. And you journal, you said, or just do the goals?
I do journal. Yep.
Journal as well.
I start with writing my goals out and then I journal. Yep.
I love it. So this is perfect because I think this is something that, and why I asked is because I too have recently adopted a morning routine, and I should have done it a lot sooner, and everything's okay, right? Everything's on time. But this has actually literally it's changing my life. It's changing my ability to hear what's in my gut, right? Where I hear the spark of curiosity and what I should do next. And because I believe we all have the answers, but we're so hooked into our ego. I call it the shallow voice. It's screaming at us all the time versus our inspired voice. It's like, I'm waiting if you'll just be quiet enough, right? Meditate, be quiet. you might actually hear me, and then follow through. And the more and more people that I talk to and listen to and watch, and I mean, I do a lot of personal development myself and studying people and watching the successful people and what do they do, and they all have a morning routine. I haven't found one that are really highly successful, highly productive, high performing. And so you and me as well, like, how do we, manage this business of ourselves and of our, lives that we've created is in these type of routines that get us quiet, get us centered, and be able to like really decipher, what's happening for ourselves, let alone what's happening in our world. So, and so I just want to anchor this because I think people need to know that there is a way to calm the anxieties, to calm the fears, to actually find the answers that feel right for you, inside of, every strategy and all the noise that we can see on social media. And it's like, it's noisy. I don't know about you, but I absolutely 100% was guilty. The first thing I did when I woke up was go to the bathroom and like splash some water in my face and then start checking my emails.
Oh yeah.
And, right?
Yeah.
Am I the only one? I'm like, I don't think so. But oh my gosh, was that noisy? Like, yes. Crazy town. So tell us about that. So what's shifted for you to be able to do that, to like let that go?
Well, I mean, that was definitely in my corporate job. That was my life. Sometimes my feet wouldn't even hit the ground out of bed and I'm checking my emails, or my boss, he was like an early bird, would be sending texts or emails right away in the morning. And I felt like I had to answer them before I even got ready or got coffee or anything, which I think Brendan Burchard calls it putting other people's agendas ahead of yours, which really resonated with me when I heard that, because I'm like, that is so true. And I think about that a lot now. But I just realized, and I actually started implementing my morning routine when I was still in my 9 to 5, which really helped because I had a lot going on in my head as far as I'm at my 9 to 5, but I'm also thinking about my business that I'm trying to like trying to keep it all straight. And so I really needed that time to quiet my mind. And everyone's mind is probably like this, but mine's very chatty.
Yeah. I think, to have as much as we do on our plates as business owners, we have chatty brains for sure. Yeah. But I don't know if I definitely don't think that's isolated just to entrepreneurs by any means. But we do have a lot to manage, right? Because we are the boss. We are the only one to call on. And therefore all the hats are being worn. But, I think it's powerful for anyone, right, to have that routine. And you're right. I think he does say that. I love when I've heard that too from Brendan. I just saw him at an event 3 days ago, so that was awesome.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he was amazing. And I love his new book, The Habits of, Productive, or whatever. What is it called? I don't want to murder it.
I have it right next to my little desk here. Yeah, it is.
Help me out, because I'm like, it's not in here. I was thinking it was in my office.
Oh, it's turned away, but yeah.
Habits of productive people? No.
Highly successful people.
Oh, yes.
High performing habits. I just looked at high performing habits.
High performing. So sorry, Brendan. There's too many P's. Too many H's and P's in that title. Okay. Yes, got to get that book. Love it. And the other thing I heard or repeated to myself and then wrote down in my journal was be the receiver, not the megaphone. Like, right? Like so the why do we get quiet? Why do we sit still? Why do we not pick up the phone? Like, that is correct. That is somebody else's agenda for the day. And we're not even yet dealing with ourselves yet, right? And our agenda and what's important to us. And so be the receiver first before you listen to the megaphones, because that's all there. The family, the kids, the dog, the social media, the email. And so that's what I remind myself of every single day. And so far, without fail, like I crave my meditation now. It's crazy. And it's making a world of difference to be able to actually be in more flow and more experiential purpose, like actually be on purpose instead of in reaction all the time. Interesting enough, and I'm curious if you know more about this because you have been doing it longer than I have. Is I watched this documentary last night about Heal on Netflix.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
So it speaks to obviously just getting, quiet. I mean, it goes into a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's like, how do we calm? Meditation was one of the ways to heal our body, to like actually calm down that fight or flight and all the chemicals that come with that. So scientifically, there's actually huge, huge benefits. And I believe I've dealt with inflammation. I've dealt with weight gain and, and all that I've struggled with. And now I'm like slowly releasing it. And that's like, I'm not even really trying that hard. I think my body is like, oh, I don't have to put all those chemicals in your body now because you're not in fight or flight all day long from the morning on. Right. Yeah. And so I just put that out there because I want people to start really taking inventory of what that is. But have you heard any more to that or experienced that yourself?
I haven't, but I have, self-diagnosed ADD, I call it, but it's probably just entrepreneurship brain.
It's EDD, right? Entrepreneur deficit disorder. EDD.
But I do think it really helps with that, like I mentioned, because it really helps me to calm, and then I can go about my day rather than just going into that craziness, just to start with. So
yeah, so good. So funny that you brought that up, and I'm so glad you did. Because I think I'm like on a mission to get everybody to like get quiet in the morning. Yeah. Even my husband's like, can you show me how this works? Yes, I can show you. It helps, I promise. And trust me, people, I'm the one that was like, oh, I'll do it once in a while, or it doesn't really work that well. Oh, it works. If you do it every day consistently, then it adds upon itself, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Anyway, I'm a diehard. Sorry.
I love it.
I think it's probably more important than any strategy you could implement.
I totally agree. And there's a reason why you said all of these really successful people are doing it, because it works.
Yeah, it works. Oprah gets up and meditates for 20 minutes. Like, let's just follow Oprah, right? He is doing something right. Anyway, so so I don't even know where to go, but I just love this conversation because I think it needs to be heard. And so thank you for sharing your morning routine and how you deal with fear. And so I guess my other question would be, looking ahead, if you're brave enough to answer or to look at this with me, is what would you say is your next brave thing that you've got to kind of, face?
There is something that I've been wanting to do, actually, since I really started this, is do retreats for the women that I work with. I started attending retreats very early on, and I actually attended my first retreat by myself. It was actually a Brendon Burchard event, which is
but
I went. Which when you walk in there, that's like all of your friends. It feels like, just because he creates that kind of environment. But they have made a huge impact on me, and I'm not a very extroverted person, so it takes a lot for me to go out and like talk to people. That has been a very brave thing that I've done. But I've seen what it's done for me personally and for my business. Yes. And I want to be able to do that for other people. So I think in 2020 I shouldn't say I think, in 2020, my goal is I'm
going to call you out.
This will come up on your timeline or something. It'll message me and say, are you doing this?
I'm checking in on you.
Yeah, exactly. But that is my goal, and that would be something brave for me to do.
I love it. Yeah. So do it. I love it. I think I love them too. I've done events, but it took a lot of brave for me to get there. It really did. And once I did it, and did like 3-day events and, just whatever, there's different ways you can do it. I just think it's number one, it's so inspiring and so impactful for people that show up, with you, that you'll love it. You'll love doing it. And there's things to fill it, and there's things to logistically and all that. And by the way, I have a referral if you need a retreat, strategist or someone that can help you.
Yeah, for sure.
Just reach out to me and I'll let you know. I think it's like whatever's the next big brave thing, it's time. right? Go back to that sense of urgency, right? Look back at, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but it's like looking back at your 9 to 5 and wishing you had done it sooner. It's like, what are we waiting for, right? Because you'll love it. You'll love it. And so will everybody that's interested in doing that with you, right? How cool would it be to get 10 people that are stuck in corporate, like off on a weekend and go, are you ready? Right?
Let's just do it. Yeah. Exactly.
2-week notice, people, 2-week notice.
Yeah.
It's like their bosses are like, where are you? And they're like, oh, by the way, Monday, here's my notice.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But, well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your journey. And I think we brought up some amazing points about, being, very mindful in our businesses as well as brave. And so in closing, what is the best place for people to connect with you?
Probably my website, 2weeknoticesociety.com. It also has links to all my social media on there, so it's easy to find me wherever I'm at then as well. Okay,
perfect. And I know you had a gift of some sort that would support those that are in that situation. What was that link or information?
Yes, I have a masterclass. It is where I share my 4-step freedom framework, I call it. And it's the steps you need to start taking in order to start generating income from what you want to do, what it is that you love to do, so that you can finally leave your 9 to 5. So
wonderful. And I know that's a bit.ly link. So we'll put the link in the show notes or what have you, so people can just click and go. Yeah. So thank you for that gift. I really appreciate it. I think it's brilliant. I think gives people a place to start. So we'll make sure that's out there. So one final question that I always like to ask is this: if this was your very last interview, you were never to speak again, and this was your last chance, what would be your message to the world?
I love that. I think that the quote that I say to myself a lot is, what got you here won't get you there. And I don't actually know who originated that.
I don't even know either. I love it though.
Yeah, because every day, I mean, as you probably know, we need to continue moving forward. We can't stay stuck in where we're at in order to get what we want. So
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Stop doing the same things over and over that keep getting the same result, right? I also would, it's like one thing I look at is like, you can't stay the same person it's like you have to become the person in order to step into what you actually want. So you can't do the same things or be the same as where you are in order to get to where you're going. I love it. So thank you for that message. Thank you for everything. It's really beautiful to meet you and share you with our community and of brave masters out there. And so I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening, please, if you've gotten a takeaway or the guts to leave that 9 to 5, I know Amy would love to hear about that story. And even if it's just a spark of curiosity or inspiration at this very moment that you needed to shift, in the right direction, please let us know. Would love to hear from you. So until next time, let's go get our brave on. Talk to you soon.